This is Ava Lerner, who was a contemporary of Keynes's, an institutionalist, post-Keynesian economist, who says, by virtue of its power to create and destroy money by fiat, or to take money away from people through taxation, the state is in a position to keep the rate of spending in the economy at the level necessary to achieve full employment and to sustain full employment. Okay? It's something that no capitalist economy has ever achieved. We have fleeting periods of what might be characterized as full employment. Unemployment rates of 2.5% in Europe, 3%, 3.5% in the US, and we call that full employment, but they're always fleeting, and they usually come during wartime or speculative bubbles, right? But no capitalist economy has ever successfully sustained full employment. And Lerner's arguing that if you have the right type of monetary system and the degree of policy space that comes with that, then you can take advantage of that and you can actually do what hasn't been achieved before. Keep your economy operating at full employment. So how do currency issuers spend? How does the issuer of the currency spend? It spends by giving instructions to have somebody else's account credited. Now, with modern money, the age of electronic money and so forth, this frequently happens without the government even writing a check. Social Security payments are made automatically. You're sitting at home looking online at your bank statement and you see $2,000 in your account, and then suddenly the numbers change and you see $3,500. Where did that come from? Oh, I just got my credit into my account from the government, right? They spend with keystrokes. This is something Ben Bernanke has been really forthcoming about. Alan Greenspan has been very forthcoming. This is how modern governments spend. Do we understand this? No. Too often we don't. So we have our president going on television, and in response to a question, are we out of money? When will we run out of money? He says, we're out of money now. That's his response on television. We're out of money. It all starts really getting bad when this guy makes his appearance. And this is Ross Perot, a little Texan who ran for president back in 92.
You just realized how long.
Boy, I did, 92. So he goes on TV, runs for president, right? He's famous with his flip charts. And he's sort of the Pete Peterson of his day. And he goes around scaring the hell out of everyone, telling them that if I ran, my business the way this government runs its operations, why, I'd be bankrupt. And he had a little Texas accent, And he just showed everybody that this is really, really irresponsible. The government is spending money it doesn't have. It's burdening our grandchildren, the arguments, all that. It's got to live within its means, just like the rest of us do, right? So we think we're broke. And this narrative that governments are like households, it's just like one big household. And it really needs to play by the same rules as a household. When you and I tighten our belts, it's responsible for the government to tighten its belt too, and so forth. Does that make any sense at all? Is the government really like a household? We don't have a fixed exchange rate system. We don't pledge to convert our currency into gold or anything else. We spend by hitting keys on a keyboard, but we act like we're still on one of these ancient monetary systems. I mean, the world truly does change in 1971. Nixon closes the gold window. We go off Bretton Woods completely by 73. It's all done. Everything changes, and we play by the same rules that applied under the old monetary system. Why? Well, for one thing, we look around, we see what's happening in other parts of the world, and we say, dear God, if I don't get my fiscal house in order, I'm going to end up like Greece. Spain, Portugal, Ireland, right? All of them. This is very powerful in the US, and they hit this over and over again. And Americans, by and large, are convinced, because if you take polls, Americans say the deficit is one of the most important problems we face today. I want the deficit to come down. And this is part of the reason that we're so terrified. But we don't understand what makes us different from those countries over there. We still have our keyboard. We have a currency that we issue. We have sovereign money. They adopted a foreign currency. They can't can't issue the currency. And because they gave up their sovereign currencies and adopted something that they can't issue, financial markets have a great deal of power that they don't have in a country like the US, like the UK, like Japan, where financial markets know that the risk of default is essentially nil. If you can always pay, the presumption is you will always pay, right? There is the ability to pay, and that gives financial markets confidence that you'll make your payments. Financial markets understand that Greece and Ireland and Portugal might not be able to come up with the euros, because the only place they can get the euro is to raise it by collecting taxes, and when your economy goes, your tax receipts go. And so to fill the gap, as other forms of spending increase, right, automatic stabilizers kick in, government spends more on social safety net programs, taxes are falling off, the deficit widens, how do you fill the gap? Borrowing, but you got to go to capital markets, hat in hand, ask for euros, and they say, well, we'll lend, but the risk of default is getting fairly high, so in order to make the loan, we need a premium. Right? That default risk premium begins to climb. The penalty is assessed by the financial markets, and these countries are now like individual states in the US. Greece is like Georgia. Georgia can't issue the currency. Georgia has to go out and borrow the dollars in order to spend. This is why there's such a crisis with state and local governments in the US. They can't do what the federal government can do. Okay? The Eurozone countries have transferred the spending authority to the financial markets. You tell us how much we can spend. How much are you willing to lend, right? You can shut us off completely, right? You can cut off borrowing. The US still has its keyboard. We're not like Greece. We're not going to be like Greece. We can never be forced to miss a payment. We can't become insolvent. We always have the ability to pay. We can't run out of money any more than a scorekeeper at a sporting event can run out of points. Right? When was the last time the Blue Jays played last night? I would say they beat my Kansas City Chiefs, but they're not really my Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, the Royals. See, I don't even know. The Royals, right, that's baseball. These teams played last night. And when was the last time you went to a sporting event and saw, a really lopsided game? One side's just running away with it, putting up point after point after point, and you sat in the stands and you thought, oh my God, if they keep scoring at this rate, they're going to run out of points. You'd never respond that way. That would never occur to you. But this is basically how we respond when it's the government issuing its own currency, as if it somehow is an object that is finite that it's going to run out of at some point. Right? Money is not an object. Here's Alan Greenspan on 60 Minutes with an interviewer named Scott Pelley. And Scott Pelley says, these are quotes, right? Pelley says, is that tax money the Fed is spending? And Bernanke says, it's not tax money. He says, we just use the computer to mark up the size of the account. I mean, that's how we spend. That's a quote.